Good morning and welcome to this presentation. My name is Martin Stenshall and I'm the Investor Relations contact in Aker BioMarine. We have two presenters today, Johansen, our CEO of Aker BioMarine, and Ianssen, Sustainability and Public Affairs Manager. First, we will present our climate strategy, our goals and our new ESG reporting regime. And then we will present the proposed new board members of Aker BioMarine. We will open for a Q&A session at the end of the presentation. And I would also like to note that a recorded version of this presentation will be available on our website as soon as possible. So without further ado, I'll give the word over to Johansen.
Thank you, Martin. So, important day for Aker BioMarine today, launching our new ESG platform. Aker BioMarine has since the inception been a leader when it comes to sustainability. And as everybody now is getting good at sustainability, which is of course very positive, those that want to continue to be leaders needs to step up the game. And Aker BioMarine's and intention is to continue to be a leader when it comes to sustainability and ESG. And today we are launching our new ambitions and platform to take us further in when it comes to ESG and sustainability. So before I go into our plans going forward, just like to spend a couple of minutes on talking about the history. So we've been committed to sustainability and ESG since the beginning. Started actually with a partnership with the NGO WWF before the company was started, because we knew when we wanted to go and build a business around krill, we had to do it the right way. We wanted to build the world's most sustainable fishery and actually partner up with WWF before we started to get advice on actually how do you build the most sustainable fishery in the world. One of the key things they told us was that there's a lot of krill, the biggest biomass on the planet. There's other species in the area that you harvest. So the first thing they told us that you need to make sure you don't get any bycatch. And that's why we developed this eco-harvesting technology that we have that basically eliminates all the bycatch from our harvest and at the same time also improves the quality of the product that we're making. Then in 2010, we got the MSC certification. That was a lengthy process to achieve a very high score for MSC. MSC is the highest ranked sustainability certification regime out there, and only the best managed and the most sustainable fisheries actually get MSC certified. And in 2010, we become MSC certified, and we stayed MSC certified since. Science in Antarctica, where we operate, is challenging and is very costly for universities and research organizations to do science in Antarctica. Therefore, we established something called AWR back in 2015, which is a research foundation where we and our customers has put financing. And then NGOs and scientists focused on the Antarctic region give out about 2 research grants every year to unlock more government funding for these research organizations so they can actually get to Antarctica and get more science around the ecosystem. And there, out of that comes important data points that helps make the fishery more sustainable. Also in 2010, Aker BioMarine took the initiative to establish something called ARC, which is the Association for Responsible Krill Harvesting Companies, where the industry goes beyond what's already the kind of strict regulation in Antarctica. So there we implement measures and initiatives beyond what is actually required to fish in the region. And about 85 to 90% of all the krill catch globally now is part of ARC. In 2015, we got the first A rating from Sustainable Fishery Partnership. We were actually the only fishery in the world that got an A rating, and it's been like that since 2015. So every year since 2015, Aker BioMarine has been rated the most sustainable fishery in the world. Then in 2016, following the launch of United Nations Sustainability Goals in 2015, we aligned our strategy to the United Nations Sustainability Goals. And they have since then been embedded in our strategy, and they will continue to be an important part of our sustainability strategy going forward. 2018, in partnership, and I would say a very unique partnership with Greenpeace, we identified and created some marine protected areas in parts of Antarctic, where we and the rest of the ARC members agreed not to fish in certain areas, even if regulations strictly would allow you to do so. Then in 2019, we took delivery of Antarctic Endurance, where we have implemented all available technology for reducing CO2 footprint. And that vessel has about 30% less CO2 footprint than a traditional trawler. And we're starting to see that impact now from 21 and onwards on taking down our CO2 footprint. Then also in 2019, we contributed together with the Norwegian government, together with the British government and some other governments, to do the first big biomass survey in Antarctica, where basically you map out how much krill is it actually. The last time that happened was in year 2000, so it's 19 years in between. And in that period, the krill biomass grew 16%. So that also shows you that the biomass is very healthy. And again, Aker BioMarine is contributing to getting data that can help manage this in a good way. Then more recently, we have last year launched ION, started with an initiative to achieve full circularity on our waste problems, and now becoming a circular solution provider for plastics. As we talked about before, we're now just scaling it up, the first steps, getting the proof of concept, and then it's going to be spin out to the Aker BioMarine shareholders and be listed separately, as this is not part of Aker BioMarine's core business. We have also worked the last couple of years on developing drones in Antarctica to help us search and find krill. So rather than using big vessels with CO2 emissions, we have these autonomous solar and wind-driven drones that help us actually identify where the krill is, and then generating a lot of data that helps us make the fishery more efficient, saving costs and also CO2. Then this year, we are just recently taking delivery on Antarctic Provider, the same like with Antarctic Endurance. This supply vessel have implemented all the new technology available for reducing the CO2 footprint and will significantly improve our CO2 footprint once it gets into operation in a month or two. And today, we're launching the new ESG platform, which we're going to talk about now. So basically, we are setting a bold climate strategy, and we have an ambition to continue to be a leader in an industry where it's hard to remove CO2. I mean, we have big vessels, big distances. We're a global company in Antarctica. It's a typical industry where it's not easy to reduce CO2. But nevertheless, we have set our CO2 targets to be aligned with the Paris Agreement to take responsible actions to keep the global warming below 2% or 2 degrees. That means that we will reduce our CO2 footprint by 50% the next year. And when we do that comparison, we are looking at last year. So from last year to 2030, we're going to reduce our CO2 footprint 50%. I think it's also important to say that already the previous 10 years, from 2011 to 2019, we reduced it also 50%. And then by 2050, we're going to go to zero. To achieve that, and as part of that, we're going to have transparent reporting and a thorough governance model around it. We have established now a climate and decarbonization committee where all investments in the company will go through, and to make sure that all the investments that we do are aligned with our climate and ESG strategy. We are implementing the best practice reporting standards. We'll get back to that a little bit later, but what banks and investors and customers are looking for, so we can report transparently and openly and in a structure that people recognize. And also when it comes to CO2, which is a very important part of our KPIs, this data will be reported also transparently and also audited by a third party. Then talking about our goals, so altogether we have 10 KPIs related to sustainability and then other KPIs related to safety and governance. And those KPIs are spread on our positive impacts, what our products do, and how that actually helps support a more sustainable society. And this KPI is related to making sure we have a responsible operation. And I'm not going to go through all those KPIs, I'm just going to highlight some of the key ones, but you'll find the details in our annual report that was published just before the weekend. But if you start with the positive impact, by 2030, we are going to provide through our products efficiency in the aquaculture production, so we can produce 1 billion extra servings of seafood every year. So that's the impact of our products making aquaculture production more efficient. When it comes to good health and well-being, we're going to by 2030 sell every year 5 billion doses of health-promoting nutrients that will combat lifestyle diseases. So the type of products that we are developing and that we will develop in the future will combat lifestyle diseases, which is a big burden for the society, both from a cost perspective, but also for people. Then for the next 10 years, we're going to continue to be 100% compliant with MSC, and we 100% MSC certified. And as I mentioned, that is the highest ranking sustainability certification you can get. It's independent, it's audited, and it's quite strict and tough. So we're going to continue to be rated among and as the most sustainable fishery in the world. Then on the responsible operation side, the two key KPIs. One is the 50% reduction of CO2 that we talked about by 2030, and then also net zero by 2050. And then related to ion launch we have, we're going to achieve full circularity on all our primary waste streams already by 2023. And that's basically plastics and some biological products that we're going to put into new life in a circular economy. So if you go into our annual report, you can find all the other KPIs, and we will report the progress on these KPIs on an annual basis going forward. So then looking at how to achieve this. So basically, as mentioned, first time we did a carbon mapping of our company was in 2011. There, our carbon footprint was about 5 tons of CO2 per tons of krill products produced. So through different initiatives the last 10 years, we have reduced that to 2.6 in 2020. And now we have created a roadmap that will take us from the 2.6 to 132. And that roadmap is a combination of efficiency throughout our supply chain. It's different initiatives connected to energy. There's different initiatives connected to vessel improvements. And there's a big bag of everything from avoiding air freight to how we travel in the organization that altogether will take us to that. About 80% of what we need to achieve is already identified in the roadmap, and that's 20% that we need to identify over the next 10 years as we move forward. And if you just, as you can see to the right side, for comparison versus other industries, you can see that already today, krill is one of the most efficient protein sources from a carbon perspective. But as we move into the future, we will become even more competitive when it comes to CO2. And I'm going to give the word to Christina, who will talk a little bit about our initiatives related to ammonia.
Yeah, thank you, Mats. So our vessels are definitely our biggest source of CO2. And as Mats said, we're going to implement several energy efficiency measures to use as little fuel as possible. But we have to replace our fossil fuel use with renewable sources of energy in order to sufficiently reduce our carbon footprint from our vessels. So that's why we are going to invest in ammonia. And ammonia is definitely the most promising fuel for the maritime industry. It has a higher energy density than, for example, hydrogen, another promising fuel. And it's also much easier to store and handle than hydrogen and other alternative fuels. And there are already safety standards for handling ammonia at sea. So it's by far the fuel that the maritime industry has the most confidence in for the future. Our newest supply vessel, Antarctic Provider, was built with this in mind and has actually designed in future-proof solutions with an engine that is going to be converted to ammonia as we speak. It's already in development. So as soon as the technology and the infrastructure is ready, we can convert our vessel into an ammonia-powered vessel. We also work very closely with the supplier industry to develop solutions and technology ammonia on ships. There's already happening a lot in the maritime cluster, especially in Norway, but also some in Denmark on this, and we are following this development closely. Perhaps what makes us most unique in this respect is that we already have a partnership in place and plans for infrastructure of ammonia. So we have an agreement with Aker Clean Hydrogen to produce zero-emission ammonia in Uruguay. And this is perhaps the most or the biggest challenge to conversion to alternative fuels, namely that there isn't any infrastructure for it yet. So here we're in a very advantaged situation where we have both the vessels that can go on ammonia as well as providing the infrastructure for ammonia. It's our long-standing relationship with Uruguayan authorities that has really helped facilitate for the settlement of industrialization of ammonia in Uruguay. Yeah, you can go further. Aker BioMarine has had very good ESG reporting previously as well. Now we've spent a lot of time and resources last year with several thorough internal processes to further develop our ESG reporting. So it's much more extensive and efficient this year. And we've been very concerned with both quantifying our industrial footprint as well as our positive impact. So that is going to come a lot from now on, the quantification of our positive impact. And we've prioritized this because it's very important for us to build trust and have transparency in our non-financial reporting. So we've used GRI as a framework for reporting on ESG. It gives us a good structure, good KPIs, routines for non-financial reporting, and it's also the most used framework for European companies. So that was a natural choice for us. We've also implemented TCFD from last year, which is a framework for how to disclose climate risk across the value chain. So we've had a very thorough process last year to map climate risk factors, delegating responsibility across the organization, as well as developing mitigating measures to our climate risk. And from next year, we're going to report into the Carbon Disclosure Project, as we want to increase our transparency and show our work in climate risk. And we've already done a lot of the groundwork for this reporting last year. So we believe we're going to get a good rating already from next year. And maybe what sets us most apart from other companies is that we've developed an automated carbon accounting system. Planetary health is really important for us in Aker BioMarine, and we are very concerned about having transparent and thorough carbon accounts that are audited by an independent third party, as Mats was saying. And our reporting system is now fully automated and very thorough. It takes into account all our emissions, Scope 1, Scope 2, and Scope 3. And it allows us to accurately monitor and track our carbon footprint over time and gives us a good foundation for strategic decision making. And we'll report on our carbon accounts annually through our annual report, but internally we can track it on a quarterly basis.
Okay. And then here at the end, as you might have noticed, we're proposing 2 new board members to Aker BioMarine, and the general meeting on this Friday vote and hopefully approve for these 2 board members. And both of them with a strong background from ESG. Anne Harris, today is the CFO of Statkraft. Statkraft is one of the leading Norwegian companies when it comes to renewable energy. She will also be an important, she's also very important with her finance and accounting background. And then Celia Indal will also join the board. A young, very clear voice when it comes to sustainability, both in Norway and internationally, and has throughout her both education and her work life only been working on sustainability related topics. So I think also now the ESG focus, we also get expertise in our board to help us make sure that we are steering the company in the right direction from that perspective. So just as a closing remark, so we are putting up quite ambitious goals. We have good roadmaps related to it. In the short term, when it comes to reducing CO2s, it basically is about reducing fuel usage, which means also reducing costs. So it goes hand in hand with improving the business. And then when it comes to converting over to ammonia, that will follow our let's say, normal vessel renewal program. So far we don't see any exceptional new capex needed to comply with this, but we will also see how this develops, especially within the ammonia side going forward. When it comes to the distribution and production of ammonia that we mentioned in Uruguay, that will then be done by Aker Clean Hydrogen. And we will then be the buyer of the ammonia for our vessel, just to clarify that as well.
So please note that this presentation and also this slide pack will be posted on our website. So with that, we wish you all a great day. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.